I submitted about a minute and a half video to the Cichlid Brothers, and you can check out their channel up here, and I'll put a link. And they asked me for some information about my African cichlid tank, and in putting together the very short video, I realized that there was a lot of information about it that could be shared, but I didn't have enough time in that video to do it. So I decided to go ahead and just provide to you a complete breakdown of every part of this aquarium, from filters to heating to lighting to substrate to fish. Just share with you every piece of this 300-gallon African cichlid tank. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We'll start by looking at filtration, and in this tank I have a 40-gallon breeder under here with two Cichlid 5.0 Synchra silent pumps. So it's a two-heart system, and you'll notice some rings down there. Those are some of the Sarah rings, and its primary filtration is being provided by these large sponges. I picked these up from Swiss Tropicals, and so the water just dumps in through a sock, which works as a sort of pre-filter. There's a little bit of crushed coral down there to help with buffering. There's a phosphate pad that's I'm hoping will help with some of the brown algae. And then the water travels through these sponges, over the rings, and then back to the aquarium. The sump is being fed, if you will, by a Synergy Reef overflow box. And it's a system designed for primarily saltwater aquariums where you can get a blockage like a sea anemone or a starfish or something blocking, and so you have backups. You have the main drain right here, then you have a secondary drain, and then if these were both to get blocked, you have an emergency overflow drain that has the highest intake inside the box. All this plumbing was cut and prepared by me. Lots of these unions which help to make it easy to disassemble. Down here you have an FX6 that is providing further filtration and backup, and in the event that one system fails, I have another filter moving a lot of water. I like the redundancy, and usually during a water change and work on the sump, I'll just let the FX6 run. There are several safeguards to prevent a flood, and one of them is one-way valves on the returns. So you have a one-way valve on the return, and this system has two returns. Here's another return here, and they both have one-way valves. So when the pumps are off, the water will sort of shut down going back to the sump. The other safeguard is that the outputs are near the very top of the water line, and so air gets into that line right away, so it breaks any back siphon that might create an overflow of the sump. So there's a couple safeguards in place to prevent flooding. Let's talk about heating inside the sump. There's a Hygger titanium heater in the sump. There's another big Hygger unit inside the aquarium. So I have a bit of a backup inside the tank. And these units are pretty hefty units, like 800 watts, 500 watts. So they provide a lot of heat. Even though they seldom seem to turn on, because I think the equipment between the pumps and the canister, I think it's producing so much heat that it keeps the aquarium right around 78.4 degrees. Both of the heaters are plugged into a very heavy-duty Gemco controller that will shut the power off in the event that the aquarium is at the desired temperature. And you can see from the controls here, the heaters are off. There's two controls on the outside, and they're both off. So there's no power going to the heaters right now because the tank is at the desired temperature, so all power is cut off. These are very heavy-duty units. They run around $100 or more and I've been very happy with them. Keeps the heaters under control. You don't want to cook your fish with a malfunctioning heater. Be sure if you get a controller that it's set up to handle the amount of wattage you're going to run through it. This one I believe is rated at around 1800 watts. There's also a Wavemaker on this aquarium, which is hitting this spot right here, which is a little bit of a dead zone. And that dead zone would accumulate waste, detritus, fish poop. So with this Wavemaker, which comes on a timer, it doesn't run all day long, just runs for several hours a day. And what it does is it moves the detritus out of this dead spot and suspends it in the water column so it gets taken up by the filters. The intake of the FX6 has a large pre-filter that I picked up from the aquarium co-op, and I just removed the normal grill intake, drilled some holes into the intake tube, and slipped this pre-filter over the tube. And what that does is it picks up food that the fish can peck off of it, so I'm not wasting food by having it get sucked up into a filter, but it also allows me to go up from 9 months to a year between the cleaning of the canister filters. You know, the big complaint people have about canisters is just how bulky they are and how hard they are to work on. But when you use a pre-filter like this one, it can really spread out the amount of time between necessary cleanings. There are 3 48-inch aquarium co-op lights on this tank. 1 right in the front, and then 2 at an angle in the back. One of the things I like a lot about the lights is how easy they are to control, and also they're strong enough so I never run them really at 100%. 100% just is way too much. I usually run them at around 30. So when you see the wattage that these lights have on the box, don't worry about that because you're going to run it at about 30%. So I really like these aquarium co-op lights. I keep a watchdog water alarm sensor in the container that my canister is in. You can see it down there. And in the event that this canister acts up and leaks, I'll get an alarm blaring toward the entrance to the living area of the house, and it'll tell me that something's going on. The unit did leak for a little while. After relubricating and replacing the O-ring, it stopped and it's running dry now, so it's doing pretty good. It's an older unit. I've had it for many years. It does seem to get a little bit of air in it. That might just be because the hoses are maybe a little bit too long. I can shorten those out, but it does get a little bit of air in the system. I hear it sucking sometimes, but otherwise it does a good job. The rocks in this aquarium were picked up from a local quarry. They just have bins of rocks, and I just showed up there and just picked some out that looked interesting to me. Every several weeks I'll turn them over. These are due for a turnover, and the bottoms of them look perfectly new. I think the striped rock was picked up at my local fish store, the Aquatic Critter, but the rest of these are from a local quarry. You can pick them up very, very inexpensively. The plants were all artificial plants that I got from a company who unfortunately is no longer around, called Elite Cichlids, and they were a family of florists that started making artificial plants for aquariums, and they were doing a great job. These plants are just, they're just very detailed and lush, and they have these real nice rock bases that hold them in place. But unfortunately, the family suffered a tragedy with the loss of mom, and they went out of business. So I can't get those plants anymore. The substrate is aragonite. It's primarily aragonite, some crushed coral, and I think I also have some just some basic black substrate, black sand. The fish are just fed, so you're seeing them scrounge around a bit. I don't really vacuum this substrate. I just let the water movement suspend the waste, and it gets sucked up by the filters. And of course the fish are always working on it. There is no pleco in this tank. I used to keep plecos and clown loaches and things like that in with my cichlids. This is all just predator haps. Very nice trout. See him right there. One of my favorite fish, a Malawi trout. Beautiful kawingi. More uncommon. Very nice fusco. Just put on some great size since I got him. Really outgrew the other fish very quickly. Buccochromis rhodesii yellow, absolutely beautiful fish. There's a turquoise hap right there. A turquoise hap. And here's the old man. This is the sand diver, who I think is getting old and breaking down on me. Like the gar is getting a little old as well. The Buccochromis. Beautiful fish next to the Venusus with that beautiful yellow blaze. Another Nimbochromis, cousin of the Fusco. This Strigatus. You notice the shape of the Strigatus is a lot like the eye biter. He's like an eye biter, except with a more normal head and face, not quite as thin, and doesn't have the attitude of the eye biter. The turquoise asserting himself. Let's see if we can get the Malawi hawk to come up here. Malawi hawk is absolutely gorgeous. He's back in there. Maybe he's very shy. Whereas some of these fish are camera hogs, the Malawi hawk tends to avoid being filmed for some reason. Well, we'll have them come out here. You can see the gar there working underneath the plants. The gars are known for being on their side, just like that. They get on their side and they're good at like getting small fry out from between rocks. There's the hawk. Just a beautiful fish. As you know, I'm looking at adding some fish to this tank. Autopharynx tetrastigma, maybe some Protomellus, a fish like that. Maybe a big spot. Maybe a linny if I can get a hold of one. Or maybe a livingstoni, you know, some more of the Nimbochromis. I wouldn't mind a Buccochromis nodotania. Because this aquarium can definitely support much more fish. 7 feet across, over 30 inches from front to back. So 300 gallons. I could probably put another 10 fish in here and I'd probably be okay. I hope that you enjoyed that and that it provides some help if you're setting up an African cichlid tank or any kind of tank for that matter. Certainly if you have any questions, be sure to ask them in the comments below. I'll be happy to help and assist any way I can. And we get into fish and filters and food and tanks and everything else on Saturdays at 11 a.m. at the Cichlids and Coffee live stream. Try and join us there if you can. And for those of you who would like to help the channel, continue watching the videos, give the videos a thumbs up, hit that notification bell and subscribe. That's the best help you can provide. But also consider becoming a monthly supporter through the Patreon program. Starts for as little as $3 a month. The details are under the video. And it helps, as I like to say, in more ways than you know. Thank you for tuning in, my friends, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.